It was 10:27 p.m., and the Target parking lot had gone still. The evening rush, the chaotic flood of families, tired office workers, and teens loitering with iced coffees, had long since tapered off. Now, just the hum of the distant freeway and the occasional rattle of a loose cart filled the air. I was finishing up the last of my shift, rounding up stray carts scattered across the lot like forgotten thoughts. I worked evenings at the Westview Target, a super Target technically, on the edge of the city, tucked into a sprawl of fast food joints, gas stations, and mid-tier chain restaurants. During the day, it was a hive of noise and movement, but at this hour, the lot felt like the aftermath of something. Empty, dimly lit, a place no one really belonged. I'd been doing this job for over a year. Cart pushing was one of those things that sounded easy until you were doing it 6 days a week in rain, snow, or the dead heat of July. It was quiet work, though, and on most nights I found a strange comfort in that. Walking the rows, gathering, abandoned carts like lost sheep, just me, my earbuds, and the squeak of misaligned wheels. But tonight, something was off. I hadn't put my finger on it yet, but the air had a different kind of weight to it, heavier, sharper, the kind of feeling that slips under your skin before your mind catches up. I was at the northeast end of the lot, furthest from the store, near a broken light post that buzzed quietly and cast long, twitching shadows. That part of the lot always creeped me out a little. Fewer lights, fewer people, just a sliver away from the woods behind the complex. I had just locked a group of carts together and was starting to wheel them back when I saw headlights swing into the lot. They cut through the dark like searchlights, making me squint. I instinctively lifted my arm to shield my eyes. It was an SUV, dark, maybe navy or black, gliding in slower than normal. Most cars that came through at this hour either parked quickly or looped around to exit, but this one didn't do either. Instead, it slowed, then stopped. Not in a spot, not near the entrance. Just right there, blocking the aisle directly, in front of me. I hesitated, the handle of the cart pressing cold into my palms. People park weirdly all the time, I told myself. Maybe they were lost, or waiting for someone. Still, something tightened in my chest. The driver's side door opened with a heavy creak, and a man stepped out. He wasn't particularly tall, maybe 5'9", but he was built solid, like a former linebacker gone soft around the middle. His face was shadowed, backlit by the SUV's running lights, making it impossible to make out any real details. But I caught the glint of something on his wrist, a watch or bracelet maybe, as he moved. The engine stayed on. That low, steady hum filled the space between us. "Hey," the man called out casually, his voice rough but not unkind. I froze for a second. Something in my gut pulled tight, but I forced my tone to stay neutral. "Yeah? What's up?" I called back, keeping a few steps of distance between us. He took a step closer, just enough that I could make out the sheen of sweat on his forehead despite the cool night air. "My car's making this weird noise," he said. "Was wondering if you could take a quick listen. Might be nothing, but I figured someone working here might know a thing or two about cars." His voice was smooth. Too smooth. Like he'd practiced that line in the mirror. I frowned, instinctively glancing around. The lot was deserted. No one leaving the store, no other cars near us. Just the buzz of that one faulty light and the low drone of the SUV. "I mean, I'm not really a car guy," I replied, edging slightly to the side. "But, what kind of noise is it making?" He gestured vaguely toward the back seat. "It's easier if you hear it while I'm driving. If you could just hop in real quick, I'll do a lap," and that's when everything in me went cold. The phrasing, the casual wave toward the car, the way he left the driver's door open like a trap waiting to spring, something ancient and primal in me snapped awake. "Sorry," I said, my voice tighter now. "I can't do that. Company policy. Not supposed to leave the lot or get in anyone's car." I didn't wait for his reaction. I turned, fast, heading back toward the cart, corral with brisk, deliberate steps. My heart was hammering, throat dry. I kept my ears sharp, praying I wouldn't hear, "Hey, wait up a sec." The words cut through the night like a blade. Then came the footsteps, quick, Heavy, he was following me. I didn't look back, I just moved, fast. My walk became a jog. The line of carts rattled behind me as I dragged them, trying to stay calm, trying not to break into a full sprint and make it worse. My phone was in my pocket. I could call someone. My manager might still be inside, or security. "Hey, I'm not trying to scare you, all right?" he shouted. Too late for that. I broke into a run. I didn't know what he wanted, didn't care. Every nerve in my body was screaming, "Run!" I didn't pause to weigh it. Instinct took over. I tightened my grip on the cart and bolted, using it like a shield between us. My sneakers slapped the asphalt and I could hear his footsteps falling behind me. Heavy, uncoordinated, desperate. I didn't dare look back. The store entrance felt a mile away, but the automatic doors lit up as I neared, parting with a whisper. The instant I crossed the threshold, cool air swept over me like a wave. I was inside. Safe. For now. Doors hissed shut behind me with a soft thud. I leaned against the metal cart rack near the vestibule, chest heaving, trying to collect myself. My lungs burned. My hands were shaking. It was mostly empty inside now. The evening shift had wrapped up and the few remaining employees were either at the registers or in the back prepping for close. The familiar smell of waxed floors and faint popcorn lingered in the air. I kept my eyes locked on the glass doors, watching, waiting. Minutes passed, still no sign of him. No SUV rolling slowly by. No shadowy figure lurking outside. Maybe he'd left. Maybe he had just been some awkward guy who didn't know how creepy he was acting. But the fear didn't fade. It was sitting in my chest like a stone, refusing to move. I stayed near the front, stacking carts, wiping down surfaces, pretending to work. Anything that kept me close to the lights, the cameras, the people. By 11:15, the lot outside had thinned to a few scattered cars under flickering lamps. No SUV, no one loitering. The night felt calm again, but that calm was a lie, and I knew it. I clocked out and headed to the break room, hoping to decompress for a bit before heading back out for the final round of cleanup. The break room was dim, lit by those tired fluorescent panels that hummed louder than they glowed. I slumped into a plastic chair, took out my phone, and started scrolling through TikToks and Instagram posts. Just noise, just distraction. But that feeling in my stomach never left. Then, I heard it. The soft click of the break room door opening behind me. I didn't think much of it at first. Probably another employee switching shifts or grabbing their bag. I didn't look up right away. But the door didn't close. No footsteps, no motion. Just silence. I turned around, and there he was, standing in the doorway. The man from the parking. His figure filled the frame. He hadn't changed. Not his posture, not his presence, not even the expression I couldn't fully see. His face was still swallowed by shadow, but something about the way he looked at me, like he already knew what I would do next, froze my blood cold. He had followed me inside. He'd waited. I shot up from the chair so fast it scraped hard against the linoleum. My phone slipped from my hands and hit the floor. I didn't stop to grab it. I sprinted across the small room, slammed open the other exit, and tore into the back hallway that led to the loading docks. I didn't stop, didn't think. I just ran. The door behind me swung shut with a bang. My breath was ragged, my heart galloping. I barreled around a corner and pushed through the side exit, the heavy door groaning as it gave way. I burst out into the night again, rounding the back of the store, running full tilt toward the front entrance. The wind cut across my face. My lungs screamed for air. The second set of sliding doors opened just in time. I nearly collided with someone. It was the front-end manager, Kevin. He stumbled back. "Whoa, hey, what happened?" I could barely speak. I grabbed his arm, eyes wild, gulping air like I was drowning. "He followed me," I gasped. "That guy from the parking lot. He was in the break room. I don't know how, but he got inside. He was just standing there watching me." Kevin didn't hesitate. He pulled out his radio, calling security as he rushed me behind the customer service counter. I kept glancing over my shoulder, expecting that man to materialize again. Face still hidden, expression unreadable. But when security searched the break room and surrounding areas, he was gone. No sign of him. Not in the footage. Not in the backlot. Not anywhere. The rest of the night passed in a blur. I stuck close to Kevin, helped clean up what I could, and waited until my ride got there. I wasn't stepping outside alone again. When I got home, I locked every door, double-checked every window, sat on the floor with my back to the wall for what felt like hours. My phone buzzed with notifications from friends, news alerts, dumb memes, but I couldn't focus on any of it. I didn't sleep that night. I kept hearing the hum of the SUV's engine, kept seeing the silhouette of that man in the break room. Stayed at Target for a few more months after that, kept my head down, took earlier shifts when I could, but I never saw him again. Never saw that SUV. Still, every time I walked out of the building after dark, I couldn't shake the feeling that somewhere just out of view, behind the trees or a car or a broken light, he might be watching. I worked at Discount Plaza, that half-forgotten department store tucked in between a payday loan place and a laundromat on Elm. It was nothing fancy. Fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, dusty shelves in some corners, the occasional mystery smell. Near the back exit, but it paid decent and was walking distance from my apartment. I was 23, living alone, fresh off a breakup that still clung to my ribs like cigarette smoke. So the quiet monotony suited me. No chaos, no pressure. Just clock in, smile at people, and fold clothes. I usually worked in women's apparel, aisles of blouses no one wanted, sale racks that got torn apart like vultures had flown through. I didn't mind it. There was something calming about refolding the same stack of sweaters 10 times a day. And I liked my co-workers. Sierra from Shoes had a biting sense of humor, and Kayla in kids' clothes always snuck me mints from her purse. By the time this happened, I'd been there just under 4 months, long enough to know which shelves creaked, which customers never actually bought anything, and which corners of the store the cameras didn't fully catch. My shifts were routine, familiar, safe. That Tuesday started off normal, mid-morning lull. Just me and the faint hum of the overhead air conditioning. I was elbow deep in a pile of jeans some customer had dumped without mercy, muttering to myself as I tried to match sizes to hangers. Figures, I whispered, tugging at a tangled belt loop. Always a mess after the morning walkers come through. I didn't hear him approach, not at first. Excuse me. I turned, startled. A man was standing maybe 6 feet from me, half shadowed by the rack of winter coats. Tall, had to be 6'3", easy. Dark jacket, dark jeans, nothing flashy. But something was off. Not his clothes, his posture. Stiff, like he'd rehearsed this moment in his head too many times. "Hi there," I said, slipping into my customer service smile. "Can I help you find something?" He smiled back, kind of. It didn't reach his eyes. They just stayed fixed on mine, flat and unreadable. "You can help me by going out with me tonight." I blinked. Thought maybe I'd misheard him. His voice was low, almost too calm. I forced a laugh. That's flattering, but I've got a boyfriend," I lied, the words falling out in a rush. It was my default line when things got weird. His expression didn't change. "No, you don't." I felt it then. That pinch of cold in the gut. The way your body knows before your brain catches up. "I do, actually," I said, voice tightening. "Just slightly. But if you need help finding something, I'd be happy to." "Yeah," he cut in, tilting his head just a bit. "I need directions. To your house." My stomach dropped. I gave a nervous chuckle, glancing toward the customer service desk. No sign of Kayla or security. "Okay, yeah. I need to get back to this." I mumbled, stepping to the side, trying to maneuver around him. He moved too, matching my pace. I froze. "Why are you following me?" He shrugged, casual. "Didn't mean to scare you." "Well, you are." I said bluntly. My voice sounded firmer than I felt. You need to stop. He held his hands up like I'd pointed a gun at him. All right, my bad. I watched him step back, but something in me didn't believe it. Still, I nodded and turned away, trying to calm the tight coil in my chest. I busied myself in a different aisle, reordering some discount tops no one ever bought. 5 minutes passed, then 10. I started to think maybe that was it. Just some creep trying to push boundaries. But then I felt it. That itchy sensation between your shoulder blades, like you're being watched. I looked up. He was there, 2 aisles over. Not browsing, just staring. Not in the casual, distracted way you'd expect someone to glance while shopping. This was different. It was focused, intentional, like he was studying me, measuring. I shifted uneasily and made my way over to the junior's clearance rack, trying to lose him in the maze of clothes and mannequins. Just walk normal, I told myself. Don't make it weird. But 10 minutes later, as I adjusted a 50% off sign near activewear, I caught him again. This time a few aisles over, standing dead still between the coats and scarves. His eyes were locked on me like he hadn't even blinked. I felt it crawl up my spine. I needed air, space, something. I grabbed my walkie and clicked the side button. Hey Lisa, I'm taking my 15, I said, trying to keep my voice casual. Copy that, she replied. I didn't run, but I walked fast toward the front, slipping past a mom with 2 toddlers and pretending to check a price tag on a pair of gloves so it wouldn't look like I was rushing. Once I hit the break room, I slumped into the old leather couch in the corner and sat there breathing hard. The vending machine buzzed quietly beside me, and for a second, I wondered if I'd imagined the whole thing. Maybe he wasn't following me. Maybe I was just being paranoid. Maybe it was just a weird guy. But the way he looked at me like I was a mark stuck with me. I chewed at the inside of my cheek, told myself to breathe slower. It's fine. It's nothing. When I came back to the floor, he was gone. Just disappeared. The rest of the shift dragged on, but he didn't reappear, and I told myself I was in the clear. I finished up around 9:15, clocked out, and headed home with my keys clenched between my fingers. For a week, everything went back to normal. Until that Friday night. I was doing the closing shift, tidying up the seasonal display near the back. The store was practically empty, just a couple browsing near electronics, and the weird hum of the HVAC overhead. The lights back there always flickered a little, which didn't help my nerves. I was half listening to Kayla rant over Channel 1 when something popped through my walkie that made me pause. A voice. Male. Calm. Hey. Can you switch to Channel 3? They asked for me by name. That wasn't unheard of. New hires didn't always know each other's voices yet. I clicked over to Channel 3 without thinking. Need you in receiving, the voice said. Flat. Direct. Now. Receiving was at the very back of the store, the loading dock where trucks dropped off shipments. Cold. Echoey. Not my usual zone. Still, I didn't question it. Just did what I was told. The hallway leading back was weirdly quiet. Those big metal doors always seemed too heavy for how empty it felt back there. When I pushed through into the receiving area, the first thing I noticed was how dim it was. Only 2 overheads buzzing faintly. It muffled the sounds from the rest of the store like I was stepping underwater. I was about to key my walkie when I heard something that made my blood run cold. My voice. Not mine now. My voice played back on a different walkie. The exact thing I'd said earlier. I'm taking my 15. I froze. That wasn't possible. Hello? I called out, my voice cracking. No response. Just static. I stepped forward, slowly, scanning the space. The sound had come from just behind the tall wire shelving near the loading bay door. And then I saw him. The man. The same man. Half shrouded by shadows, barely visible behind one of the shelves. Just standing there, staring. I stumbled backward. My mouth went dry. Did you call me? I asked, voice trembling. He didn't answer. just stepped out from behind the shelf, slow and quiet, like a shadow slipping free from the wall. "Please, don't come any closer," I managed to say, my hands up. He didn't listen. He reached me in 3 strides, grabbed my arm, yanked me toward him with terrifying force. My scream caught in my throat, half-formed, strangled by the silence of the room. I twisted, thrashed, tried to pull away, but his grip was iron. And then, Ashley? It was Amy. She stepped through the door, squinting, her brow furrowed. "What the hell's going on?" The man let go instantly, didn't say a word. He bolted, sprinting past the exit and out into the dark parking lot, vanishing into the night. Amy rushed to my side. "Are you okay? What happened?" I couldn't get the words out fast enough. I told her everything, my voice shaking, my hands trembling, and even then it didn't feel like enough. It didn't feel real. But it was. We called the police right away. They arrived fast, checked the cameras, walked the perimeter, but he was already long gone. One of the officers explained almost casually that picking up a walkie on the same frequency wasn't hard. "Cheap scanners," he said. "It's more common than people think." I went numb. I kept working there for a few more weeks, kept pretending. It hadn't rattled me as deeply as it did. But every time I heard a new voice on the walkie, or a tall figure walked into the store, my gut twisted. I'd catch myself scanning for him, waiting, wondering if he'd try again. He never did. But even now, walking home some nights, I find myself glancing over my shoulder, breath catching just for a second. I never see him. Not yet. I never thought of myself as someone who scared easily. I wasn't the jumpy type. But that October in 2016, God, that month dismantled whatever sense of calm I thought I had. My wife Emily and I had just moved to Redfield, a small town outside Kansas City. Quiet place, nothing remarkable. We landed there because Emily got a decent nursing job at the county hospital, and the rent was manageable, especially compared to the city. Redfield wasn't exactly charming, more like a cluster of sagging houses and half-abandoned strip malls. The kind of place where every building had a flickering sign, and the roads still had faded chalk outlines from kids who didn't play outside anymore. The only place that felt alive after sundown was Target, that red circle beacon in the night, open past 9 and crucially within walking distance. It was our go-to for everything: midnight snacks, forgotten toiletries, emergency supplies, or in tonight's case, painkillers. Emily was curled up, on our sunken couch, bathed in the blue glow of a muted sitcom rerun. She looked awful, eyes squeezed shut, hands gripping both sides of her head like she was trying to hold her skull together. "Trevor," she whispered, "can you get me something? Excedrin, ibuprofen, anything, please." I checked our so-called medicine cabinet. Expired children's cold syrup, antacids, and a crusty old tube of Neosporin that smelled like rubber. Nothing that could touch a migraine. I sighed, rubbed my eyes, and checked the time. 9:17 p.m. Target. Closed at 10. I had maybe 30 minutes, tops. Walking there wasn't the issue. It was only 7 minutes away. But something about that October had felt off. There was this crawling unease under everything. People in town whispered constantly about the clown sightings. Not just online, here. Redfield had been caught in the web of that bizarre clown panic sweeping the country. At first, it felt like an internet hoax, but local Facebook groups lit up every day. Posts about clowns spotted near the woods, loitering in parking lots, standing motionless in people's front yards at midnight. A few weeks earlier, Emily had shown me one post, a blurry photo someone took behind the old Sweeney textile factory. A clown suit, oversized and dirty, with a hatchet in one hand, standing perfectly still in the shadows by a rusted dumpster. Probably just some dumbass teenager trying to go viral, I told her at the time. But something about the image, the stillness, the way it didn't look staged. I hadn't been able to shake it. Even the local school sent out an email warning parents not to let kids walk home alone after dark. It felt like the town was holding its breath. Emily let out another, low groan, clutching her head tighter. I stood there torn, nauseated by the thought of walking outside but unable to just leave her like that. Our one car had been dead for weeks. I'd quit my job back in August and was in that weird limbo between offers. We hadn't replaced the battery yet, and I didn't feel like explaining to an Uber driver that I was too creeped out to walk 7 minutes. I knew how stupid it sounded. "All right," I mumbled, mostly to myself. I threw on my hoodie, pulled the drawstrings tight, and took a deep breath like I was psyching myself up for a dentist appointment. "Be back soon," I said. Emily nodded weakly from the couch. It was cold outside, not freezing, but that bone-deep chill that lets you know fall's about to hand the baton to winter. The streetlights buzzed overhead, flickering like they were struggling to stay awake. The pavement was slick with that faint mist that never quite turned into rain, and the clouds hung low, thick and bruised. I walked with my hands deep in my pockets, hood up, head down. Maple Avenue was a straight shot, past the old Baptist church, then left onto Auburn, and from there Target's red glow would usually peek over the treetops. There was a shortcut, cutting through the back of the Oak Ridge Preserve. A narrow stretch of woods behind some condos, mostly used by dog walkers during the day, but lately no one went near it after dark. I never liked it even in daylight. The trees leaned in too close, like they were listening. So I stuck to the sidewalk. The streets were dead quiet, not just calm, silent. No wind, no crickets, no distant hum of traffic, just me and my footsteps. Even the houses looked abandoned, lights off, curtains drawn. It was like the whole town had tucked itself in early. "Don't be an idiot," I muttered. "Just keep walking." A few blocks in, I started to relax until I heard it. A soft giggle, high-pitched, faint, floating on the air like a balloon caught in a breeze. I stopped cold. At first I thought it was a radio, maybe from a passing car, but no engines, no tires, no movement, just silence. Then the giggle again. This time, closer. My mouth went dry. I forced myself to walk. Keep the pace steady, keep the breathing normal. Don't give in. It's kids, I told myself. Halloween's close, probably some asshole with a speaker hiding in a bush. But the next laugh sounded wrong. Not playful, too breathy, too slow. It trailed off like someone running out of air. Then I saw it, a flicker of white between the trees on the opposite side of the road, just for a second. White fabric, a flash of red, maybe hair, maybe a wig. I froze mid-step, eyes scanning the shadows under the tree line. Nothing moved, but I knew something had been there. My pulse roared in my ears, drowning out everything else. "Don't look back," I whispered. "Don't run, just get to Target." And I walked, not fast, not slow, just enough to look like I had somewhere to be. But every step felt like it was taking me deeper into something I didn't understand. And that's when I saw the grin. Not just a smile, a grin. Wide, painted, unreal. Like it had been plastered on with a trembling hand in a rush. Red, lips stretched far too wide over ghost-white skin, but it was the eyes that hit me hardest. They weren't wild or manic. They were calm. Calm, like he had all the time in the world. Then I saw the gleam, a blade, long, dull silver, and jagged at the edge like it had been used more than once. He held it low and loose in one gloved hand, swaying slightly like it was a toy he barely cared about. That was it. Whatever calm I'd been faking cracked and crumbled in a second. I turned and ran, bolted like my body had made the decision without me. The red glow of the Target sign at the end of the block looked like a distant flare, something holy. Behind me, I heard him. Where you going, man?" he sang out. His voice had this sing-song lilt, like a cartoon character, or a preschool teacher trying to sound playful. It made my skin crawl. Then the footsteps. Thud. Thud. At first they were slow, measured, confident. Then they sped up. Thud, 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 thud. "Run, little piggy." It wasn't just in my head. I heard it, whispered, low and breathy, inches from the back of my neck. I gasped. My lungs burned, my legs screamed, but I pushed harder. I didn't care if I fell face first through the glass. I just needed to make it to those sliding doors. The whoosh of something slicing air passed behind me. I didn't look. I couldn't. The Target doors parted just in time for me to hurl myself inside. I collapsed on the cold tile, heart thudding against the floor like it was trying to escape. I was soaked in sweat, trembling, gasping, half sobbing. The blinding fluorescent lights above me felt like sanctuary. Sterile, safe, real. But when I scrambled to my feet and spun around to look, there was nothing. No clown, no footsteps, just the parking lot. Empty. Flickering lights. Silent as a graveyard. I stumbled toward the customer service counter, dizzy and hoarse. There's someone chasing me. A clown. He had a machete. My words tumbled out like marbles in my mouth. I could barely string a sentence together. People turned and stared. Blank faces. A few teens near the snack aisle laughed, under their breath. One woman clutched her purse tighter and edged away. Behind the counter, a young woman in a red vest blinked at me like I'd interrupted her dream. Her name tag said Kayla. She couldn't have been more than 19. "Sir." "Okay, calm down," she said, her voice flat, almost bored. "There's nobody out there." "I swear he was right behind me," I said, voice shaking. "Please, just someone check?" Kayla looked over at a stocky guy rearranging returned Halloween decorations. He was older, late 40s maybe, with the look of someone counting the minutes to clock out. He let out a sigh like I'd ruined his night. All right, he muttered. "I'll walk out there with you." We stepped outside together. The cool air hit me like a slap and I instantly felt stupid. The lot was empty. Quiet. Peaceful even. "You see anybody?" he asked, hands on his hips. I scanned the shadows. Every corner, every hedge. Nothing. "No," I whispered. But I swear he was there. He clapped me on the back with more force, then comfort. "Probably just some jackass in a costume messing with you," he said. "Whole country's gone nuts with that clown crap. Go grab your stuff and head home." But I couldn't move, couldn't shake the feeling that eyes were still on me. I walked the aisles in a daze, trying to look like I was shopping. I picked up some gum, a flashlight, Halloween candy I didn't want, the Excedrin. I kept circling the store, pretending to browse, checking over my shoulder every few seconds. Even under fluorescent lights, I felt watched. I stayed in that store for nearly an hour. I wasn't waiting for prices. I was waiting for courage. It never came. Eventually, the intercom crackled to life. "Attention Target guests, the store will be closing in 15 minutes. That was it. I gave up. I opened my phone and downloaded Uber right there by the clearance bin. The driver's name was Marka, mid-60s. Gray hair pulled into a low bun. She didn't say anything when I climbed in, didn't comment on the pickup and drop-off being on the same street. As we drove past the edge of the Oak Ridge Preserve, I made the mistake of looking out the window. There he was, standing still in the shadows by the tree line. Same suit, same grin, same machete, like he'd been waiting, watching. I didn't say a word to Marka. Couldn't. My voice had vanished somewhere in my throat. We turned the corner. He disappeared from view. I never walked down Maple Avenue again after that, not even in broad daylight. I started parking on the far side of the Target lot near the main road. I didn't care how far the walk was. I wasn't getting near those woods again. Months later, I heard Target corporate stopped selling clown masks altogether. Too many complaints, too many stories, too many people like me. But it was too late. The damage was already done, that October. I learned something. Some monsters don't hide under your bed, they hide in the places you trust. On the sidewalks you walk every night. Under the streetlight outside your home. And their smiles? They're not there to make you laugh. They're there to show you their teeth. I never thought a place like Target could make me feel unsafe. I mean, I've been going there for years. It's always been my go-to for everything. Milk, makeup, even that weird lamp I bought last fall. living in Clayton Falls, a town so small you know half the people by name. Target felt like a little slice of normal. Sure, Walmart was on the other side of town, but honestly, that place always felt messy, loud, too much. Target was cleaner, quieter, my safe spot. I work second shift at this call center downtown. By the time I clock out at 10 p.m., most places are already locked up or shutting down. Target stays open till midnight, so it became my routine, a peaceful late-night escape. I liked wandering the aisles alone, no crowds, just the hum of the lights and the occasional beep from the registers. Felt kinda soothing, you know. But that night, everything went sideways. It was a Tuesday, long day. Customers snapping at me like I was the problem, the kind of shift where the clock crawls. When I finally punched out, I was too wired to head home and crash. Thought I'd grab some snacks, decompress while roaming the aisles. Pulled into the lot around 10:45 p.m. The parking lot was half empty, those flickering yellow lights overhead casting weird shadows. I parked in my usual spot, a couple rows from the door. Not too close, not too far. Inside, it was quiet, just like always. A few employees restocking shelves, a handful of other late-night shoppers pushing half-empty carts. I grabbed my cart and started my routine. Produce first, then pantry. Snacks, refrigerated stuff last. I liked knowing the drill. It made me feel in control after a crazy day. But that night, something felt off. It wasn't the store. The lights were the same, the music low and familiar. It was the people, or the lack of them. By the time I hit the frozen foods aisle, the emptiness was almost too much. Even the employees I'd seen earlier had vanished. I pushed my cart past the frozen pizzas when I heard it, a soft thud, like something shifting behind the metal shelves. I stopped. Told myself it was probably an employee restocking from the back. No big deal. But then, out of the corner of my eye, I caught movement. Something slipping between the cracks of the shelving where the freezers met the storage area. A figure. Someone was back there. I leaned forward, peering through the narrow gap. No. Red shirt, no khakis. Just black, head to toe. And then I saw it. A ski mask. My stomach twisted. I stood frozen, telling myself maybe I'd imagined it. Maybe it was maintenance or some late worker. But then the figure moved again, slow and deliberate. I tried to act casual, grabbed a frozen meal like I was just browsing, and started walking toward the next aisle, but I could tell he was following me. Quiet, keeping pace behind the shelves, my heart pounded in my chest. This wasn't normal. This wasn't safe. I kept my head down, pretending to scan the shelves, but I could see him more clearly now. Ski mask, black hoodie, gloves. Watching me. When I got to the end of the aisle, I didn't look back. I abandoned my cart and made a beeline for the closest employee, a woman restocking cosmetics. "Hey," I said, trying to keep my voice steady even though it was shaking. There's someone back there, in a mask. I think they're following me." There's someone behind the freezer aisle," I stammered, voice low but urgent. "All in black. I don't think he works here. Leah. Her name tag said so." Blinked at me, eyes wide like she'd just been hit with a bucket of cold water. "Wait, what? Behind the freezers?" "Yeah, mask on." He was following me. She hesitated, glancing toward the darkened back of the store like she half expected someone to jump out. Then she nodded fast, snapping back into action. "Okay, stay right here, I'll check it out." She grabbed her walkie-talkie and disappeared through the double doors leading to the stockroom. I stood frozen, heart hammering in my chest, staring down the empty aisles that suddenly felt way too quiet. Minutes crawled by. Finally, Leah came, back looking confused. "There's no one back there," she said softly. "I checked the freezer section and the stockroom. It's empty." I knew what was coming next. Maybe I imagined it. Maybe it was just some maintenance guy I didn't recognize. But deep down, I knew what I saw. I just nodded, forcing myself to believe her. Grabbed a few essentials from the front and checked out as fast as I could. But as I left, That feeling stayed, the prickling sensation that someone was still watching me. I wanted to write it off as paranoia. After a long day? Sure, maybe. Stress can mess with your head, but the next week told me otherwise. Same target, same late night, same routine. Only this time, as I pulled out of the parking lot, I saw him, half hidden behind the shrubs near the loading dock, black clothes, ski mask, watching me. He stepped out just enough for me to catch the glimpse of those cold eyes behind the mask. He looked right at me. I drove past, trying not to show I noticed, but my skin crawled all the way home. And that wasn't the worst of it. The third time, that's when everything snapped. Same parking lot, same late night. I parked a little farther down, surrounded by a few cars. When I came back to my car, bags in hand, I noticed a white sedan parked next to me. At first, it looked empty. Then, it wasn't. Movement inside the car, black figure, ski mask. He slid out from the back seat, crawling into the passenger side like some nightmare coming to life. Our eyes met through the glass. He opened his door. I froze. Terror locked me in place. He walked straight to my door, tried the handle. Something clicked in me and I slammed the lock just as his hand grabbed the handle. He pressed his face against the window, inches from mine. I screamed for him to leave. He didn't move. I shoved the car into reverse, flooring it backward. He clung to the side for a heartbeat before letting go. I didn't stop. Raced out of that lot, pulled into a nearby gas station, lights off, shaking like crazy. A few minutes later, I saw the white sedan peel out of the Target parking lot, speeding past me. I haven't been back since. I don't know who he is, or what he wants. But those 3 times I went, he was waiting. And now, even at other stores, other parking lots, I'm checking every white sedan, every shadow, 'cause some things don't just go away. I never really thought twice about shopping alone. Growing up in a mid-sized Illinois suburb, life felt insulated, you know? Like the kind of stuff you hear on true crime podcasts or see in those clickbait headlines. That kind of thing didn't happen to people like me. Our Target was on the edge of town, stuck between a strip mall and this quiet neighborhood with perfect lawns and ancient oak trees. It wasn't just a store. It was the place my mom dragged me on lazy Sundays when there was nothing else to do. The spot where high school kids would just hang out, killing time. I'd stop by after class or work to grab whatever I needed. It felt safe, familiar, predictable. But I learned the hard way. Evil loves predictability. I was wrapping up my last semester at community college, juggling a waitressing job and a mountain of classes that never seemed to shrink. My parents were always on my case about being frugal, so I was still living at home, saving every penny before transferring to a 4-year school. Target was part of my routine now, a quick escape from the house, whether I needed allergy meds, snacks, or just a reason to breathe. It was late October, the kind of gray, wet cold that seeps into your bones and turns the leaves into mush. I remember that day exactly because it was so damn ordinary. Until it wasn't. I pulled into the parking lot around 3:30 p.m., the sky bruised and heavy with clouds. I'd been battling a cold for days and just wanted some allergy medicine, vitamin C, and maybe that cheap throw blanket I'd been eyeing. Parked by the garden center entrance, my usual spot, and stepped inside. The smell of popcorn hit me first, along with the faint buzz of bad pop music playing overhead. Normal. But then I saw him. He was in the cold medicine aisle. Not tall, not muscular. In fact, kind of the opposite. Thin, almost frail, with this weird slouch like he was trying to disappear into himself. That wasn't what set off my gut, though. It was how he stood. Too still. Too deliberate. His eyes, sunken, pale, empty, like he wasn't really there. Like something wearing skin. His greasy black hair was slicked back in this awkward attempt at being trendy, and his patchy beard didn't help. I tried to ignore him, faking indecision between the store brand and the pricier one. But every time I glanced up, he was inching closer. My stomach twisted. I told myself I was being paranoid. Then he spoke. Quiet, soft, but it chilled me. Indecision's rough, huh? I blinked and turned. He was right there, way too close. Yeah, I guess, I muttered, hoping he'd just back off. But he didn't. Instead, he smiled, or tried to. It wasn't a real smile. More like a predator's mask, rehearsed and fake. "What's your name?" he asked like he owned the answer. "Jenna," I said, quick and fake. He grinned wider. "Cute name. Mine's Kyle." I mumbled something polite, grabbed the bigger bottle of medicine just to have an excuse to move away. That's when I felt his hand on my shoulder. Not hard, but enough to freeze me, ice crawling through my veins. "Hey, wait," he said softly, like we were friends already. "You're cute. Let me get your number." Every instinct screamed no. But I froze. I didn't want a scene, didn't want to make this worse. So, against everything inside me, I gave him my number, the real one. Figured I could block him later. He typed it in like he'd hit the jackpot. I left shaking, telling myself he'd forget me by morning. I was wrong. Pulling into my driveway 10 minutes later, I tried to shake it off. Just some weird guy, awkward moment, nothing more. I grabbed my bags and headed inside. That's when I saw it. A car creeping down the street, sliding to a stop right in front of my house. Tinted windows. No, plates on the car. My breath hitched like I'd swallowed a lump of ice. I knew. Didn't have to see his face to feel those cold eyes burning right through me. I dropped my bags, heart pounding like a drum, and bolted inside, slamming the door shut and locking it fast. My hands trembled as I pressed my eye to the peephole. The car idled there, silent, waiting, every second stretching on forever before it finally eased away. That night, the texts started. At first, they were awkward, stumbling attempts. At flirting, like he thought we'd clicked or something. But within hours, the tone twisted. He got sharp, angry. When I didn't answer, the messages piled up. Long, desperate paragraphs about how I belonged to him, how I was supposed to be with him. When ignoring him didn't work, the threats came. I still hear his voice sometimes, a cold whisper echoing inside my head that won't go away. "You belong to me. And if I see you with anyone else, they'll pay." I wanted to block him. God, I should have. But I didn't. I was too scared, too curious. I needed to know what he was planning. If I cut him off, I'd be blind. Then the stalking got worse. It wasn't just Target anymore. He showed up at my job, a tiny cafe downtown, at school, and even at the gym where I worked out with my best friend Rachel. My dad started driving me everywhere. I thought that'd help. It didn't. One day, after Rachel dropped me off from class, my phone buzzed. "Hope your little driver enjoyed their face today. Next time I might not let them leave." That was it. I cracked. I stopped asking for help. Figured if I was alone, I could keep the people I cared about safe, but it only made me easier to hunt. 2 weeks later, it all came to a head. Back at Target, I should have stayed away, but I wasn't going to let him run my life. I went mid-afternoon hoping the crowd would keep me safe. Of course, he followed. I saw him the second I pulled in. His beat-up sedan slithered into the lot behind me like a shadow I couldn't shake. I ran inside, but something felt wrong. He didn't follow me in. Instead, he leaned against my car outside, waiting. The trap was set. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might burst. I grabbed what I needed, but my hands shook so badly I dropped my wallet at the self-checkout. I glanced through the glass. There he was, just watching. I broke. I rushed to the customer service desk, tears blurring my vision. Kelsey, her name, tag said, didn't hesitate. She called the manager, who called the cops. I watched from behind the glass as squad cars rolled in. He bolted, but it was too late. They caught him a few blocks down the road. They found a loaded gun. I sat there numb as the officers told me if I hadn't spoken up, I might not have left that parking lot alive. Even now, I can't look at a Target parking lot without feeling eyes on me, without hearing that buzz of his, voice in my head, wondering if someday he'll get out and finish what he started.